Welcome back to Mega Music Memories, the podcast that remembers and celebrates the music of our childhoods and the amazing artists and bands who helped to create it. My name is Matt Gibson. Join me on each episode as I interview pop stars from the 80s, 90s and noughties who, in my opinion, don't always get the plaudits they deserve for the magnificent music they helped to create and the magical memories we have today. So, if you're a nostalgia nerd like me, subscribe and stay tuned as we continue our journey through an amazing era of pop music. If you love pop, if you love nostalgia, and if you want to hear your favourite blasts from the past, reflecting on their careers and giving us the lowdown on what they're up to now, then you've come to the right place. So buckle up, friends, we've got some serious reminiscing to do. Today's episode of Mega Music Memories focuses on Aimee Kearsley, who is best known for being part of the noughties girl group Clea. Clea were comprised of 4 of the 5 runners-up from the hugely successful 2002 reality TV show Popstars The Rivals. Originally made up of Aimee, Chloe Morgan, Lindsey Brown and Emma Beard, Clea released 4 singles in the UK, including 3 top 40 hits, performed on Top of the Pops and recorded 2 albums. The girls enjoyed significant success overseas, most notably during tours in Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe, where they were warmly received. I was keen to get Aimee's thoughts on the whole Popstars The Rivals process, the journey that she went on with Clea, and everything that followed after the band broke up. And she really delivers on all those fronts. She's really packed a lot into her 18-year career in the music industry, and her journey's far from over, as she reveals in the interview. I think there's some really interesting stuff that comes out in our chat around the direction that Clea were pushed into in those early days under their first record deal, and the way the girls' image evolved over time. Aimee's career in Clea coincided with what I think was a really interesting time for the music industry and wider celebrity culture in general, right at the vanguard of some major changes that have revolutionised the way we consume music today and interact with its creators. It was really interesting to get Aimee's perspective on this as someone who was right there in the middle of it as it was all happening. So, a common theme shared by my first 2 interviewees, Nick Major and Nikki French, was that they wanted to be pop stars from a very young age. So I started by asking Aimee if it was the same for her.
Yeah, from day dot, basically. I think as soon as kind of music was on my radar, from about the age of 4, to be honest, is my earliest memory of very much being aware of music and Top of the Pops and the charts. And I always had the ability to kind of learn lyrics very quickly to songs and know all the words. And yeah, it was from a very young age I kind of realised that was a big passion of mine. So,
who were your influences when you were growing up musically?
Well, definitely probably the first full song I ever learnt was Roxette, Dressed for Success. that was my anthem when I was like 5 years old. And even listening back to that song and the lyrics now, and it was definitely like what gave me my first kind of, I want to sing like that, and I want music like that. And then obviously influences as I started growing up a bit more is like the likes of Gloria Estefan, Shania Twain was a huge influence for me. I actually really loved country music. Anastasia was a big influence of mine as well. And then obviously the usual Mariah Careys and Whitney Houstons. And yeah, I was a big female vocal kind of cheerleader at that age. So
well, it's great that you've always sort of been into country, because you've done some work, haven't you? I think with Nathan Carter, is it?
Yeah,
the sort of Irish
country music singer.
And he covers it. It was fantastic to get involved with him, actually. And it was the first time I'd gone on tour as a backing vocalist for another artist. I'd never really had that opportunity before. And it was through a friend of mine who's worked with him for years. And they were looking for a new singer to go on tour because, I mean, he's huge in Ireland. Like, he fills arenas. Yeah. So when they said, you know, can you come and do this arena tour across Ireland and learn all of his songs and all these old school country tracks, I was like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Happy days. So yeah, it was fantastic, and it was nice to be involved in a tour in a different way to what I'd experienced before. And not be centre stage, actually. I really enjoyed that experience of being there to actually enjoy it more and not have that all eyes on you feeling.
Yeah. Awesome. So most people, the first time you came to their sort of attention would be when you auditioned for Popstars The Rivals, aged 16, back in 2002. Where did you find out about it? Had you seen the original Popstars or the original Pop Idol prior to that? What was going on for you at the time?
Well, obviously, I was in school at the time. I was in my last year of high school. I'd just done my GCSEs. My plan, obviously, I had a plan to go to college and all the rest of it, and study music and kind of move forward in that way. But I'd watched both Pop Idol and Popstars, so I was very much aware that this new form of reality TV show was out that was going to give singers like me, I guess, and anybody from, you know, other areas of the UK an opportunity to have a platform to finally, you know, potentially go into a band. So, I mean, I think I'm trying to recall now when it might have even been in the local newspaper that we actually saw that they were holding auditions in Manchester. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a case of me dragging my dad out of bed at probably 4 a.m. in the morning to go and join these absolutely crazy queues in Manchester. Yeah. And go and audition, and that's exactly what I did. It was literally a one-off morning, and I just thought I'll go for it and see what it's about, and then it rolled on from there basically.
So having seen Popstars and Pop Idol, was that process, was it like what you thought it would be, or was it just completely different?
Completely different, actually, because obviously the likes of those shows that we watch when they're on telly, you only see really you only really get to know the TV part of it once it's kind of the big shows and all the rest of it. But actually the audition process was way more in depth than I ever imagined. You know, it was basically essentially a boot camp. So I didn't realize it would be as in depth as what it was. And we would go through this whole weeks and weeks in London of, you know, having to learn dance routines and songs and having to perform every day. And then, you know, that awful thing of elimination at the end of a couple of days to know whether you were in, you know, the final 80, the final 50, the final 30, the final 20. Like it literally went down like that. So it was quite an intense process, really, but actually a process that I really enjoyed because it was my first taste of something like that. So for me, the whole thing was just so exciting. Like I was so grateful to be there in that room with so many different singers and performers who were just like me and wanted that opportunity. So,
and did you have any idea back then of just how much of a juggernaut these kind of reality TV shows would become? Because we were still quite near the beginning of those, weren't we? Back in 2002.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I didn't, to be honest. I didn't really realise the scale of the kind of show I'd just got involved in, for sure. I mean, I even remember, to be honest, the first moment when I think I'd been down in London and it had come out in the newspaper that morning who you know, who were the 10 girls, who were the 10 guys. And I think I'd been travelling then back up north. And I remember getting on this train and people looking at me and then like double taking and being like, I'm like, is this you in the paper? And it was like that first, like, oh my God, this is freaky. Like, I'm like a 16-year-old girl, like just on my usual journey. And, you know, that's, I think, when it started to hit that people were suddenly going to know who I was. And I was part of this, you know, this brand new TV show that was going to create a girl band and a boy band. So.
And in your experience from having gone through that process back then and just observing what things are like today, do you think they've changed in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest change is probably the fact that back then there wasn't the same social media side of things. So, and like you said, it was very fresh back then. We were probably the third, after Pop Idol, we were the third reality TV show really doing this kind of thing. So, for people watching and the people involved, it was this really fresh, brand new platform and concept of a way to get yourself seen and a way, to be have an opportunity to get into the industry. Obviously, that's still been the case all these years with, The Voice and X Factor and all the rest of it. But I think because it was newer and fresher then, I think as the years went on, I guess there was just a change in people's perception of it because they were used to it then. So it just seemed like it's like a chain of constant people coming onto these TV shows, and a lot of different people years to years, because I think that's the thing that's always surprised me and the other girls is that, we were such a long time ago, that the show was, and yet we can still be recognised, which blows my mind, because I think how many contestants have been on these shows over the last 15 years? But I think because we were one of the early ones and, everybody was tuning in because it was this brand new thing, we were more remembered. And it was more of a moment. It was a TV moment, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's being so young as well, just 16 years old.
Yeah.
Looking back now, sort of with hindsight, do you think that the minimum age was right at the time, or do you think it should have been higher? Or
I mean, obviously for me personally, I'm glad it was 16. Otherwise, I'd have never have been there. So I think at 16, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I think it's certainly a lot to take and a lot to deal with at that age, because literally leaving school to go straight into that was a huge a huge thing. But at the same time, for me, it was a leap jump forward into where I knew I wanted to be in the next 5 years anyway. So although it was a lot to deal with at a very young age like that, I think if you know what you want to do and you want that opportunity and it's your choice to go for it, then I don't see, that kind of age as an issue, to be honest.
Yeah. And you mentioned like sort of social media briefly before, just thinking of just kind of celebrity culture in general. Do you think that's changed from those days? And if so, in what ways?
Yeah, it's certainly changed. I mean, there's definitely that you're out there for the world. I mean, you're always out there to be judged by the world, but it's more prominent than ever now that I think that, you're out there to be judged and for people to very easily vocalize their thoughts or opinions. And although there was social media then, the likes of MySpace, and there was, big blogs, and the likes of Pop Justice was a huge thing back then that everybody used to check, and there were forums, but we were shielded to a certain degree back then. It wasn't the same kind of interaction with, certain fans or, people that were watching the show. You didn't get to hear about everybody's opinion, which when I think back now, I'm kind of grateful for that, because I think that's one of the hardest things now actually for people to deal with that do put themselves out there onto huge platforms is that fear of what are people saying about you. And, everybody has an opinion now, and they're very quick to share that, which is a really, it's a really difficult thing to deal with. So I think in a way we were kind of lucky that social media wasn't so prominent back when our show was.
Yeah. I mean, do you think if it did exist, do you reckon you'd have been on Twitter or whatever checking what people were saying about
God,
you?
Yeah. Of course, everyone would have. Of course, yeah. I mean, that it's human nature. Of course, as much as you don't want to see it, you're still going to come across it. You can only kind of shield yourself so much. And I think definitely with us all being younger, we were all pretty much under 20. So, there would definitely have been that. So yeah.
Yeah. So Popstars, the rivals, the judges, we're looking at Jerry, we're looking at Louis Walsh, Pete Waterman. What were they like to work with?
They were really lovely. I mean, in terms of working with them, like you said, to be honest, like aside from the Saturday night shows when they would, come along to do their job and judge the show and stuff, there wasn't really much interaction in between that. To be honest, they were there like that. That was what they were there to do. And they'd come in and, we'd get a few highs backstage and a few little chats, but there wasn't that close interaction, to be honest, with the judges. It was more a case of we knew that they were there to judge us and do a job and, kind of share the news of the public votes and stuff. But in terms of working with them, there wasn't really that kind of close bond or interaction between the contestants and the judges at that time.
Mm. So when you were, but obviously you mentioned it was the boot camp and it was quite intensive. So who were you kind of working with? Because you must have been being kind of directed as a group by some people. It was
more the people working on the show, to be honest. A lot of the runners, a lot of the staff that were working behind the scenes. Some of the judges, I guess, had some assistants who would be there when they weren't there to kind of oversee what the choreographer was teaching us or, how things were going by. And then they would obviously come by and check on certain days when we were having the eliminations and things like that. But that's my memory of it, really, that it was more, there was a lot of people behind the scenes that were also kind of doing a lot of work on the show.
Yeah. So you made it through that grueling boot camp process into the final 10, into the live shows.
Yes.
How did that feel?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was a pinch me moment. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of, I'd never expected that would happen for me. Obviously I was there to give it my best shot and I'd always wanted to do that, but I never thought for a minute when I first went for that audition that I would end up in the final 10. And end up in that crazy whirlwind of a TV show that we ended up in. But at the time, I was on top of the world. It was the best feeling ever.
But the reality of being in that final 10 meant that you were singing live in front of millions of people on prime time television. Were you aware of that, and how did that make you feel?
I think I was after the first show. Yeah, I think the first that first Saturday night show and when it actually happened, I think that's when it hit us, all of us, to be honest. And we were like, wow, okay, this is real. It's kind of scary, but exciting at the same time. And to be in this huge TV studio with all cameras, and it was a wild experience. I mean, when I think back now, I'm quite proud of myself for actually how I dealt with that, because it was a very overwhelming kind of scary thing, really. But I think, I kind of didn't have too much fear over it at that age, which was good. I'd probably be more fearful now, to be honest, than what I was when I was 16.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's it, isn't it? In a way, you've obviously being so young, you think, so young and fragile, if you like. But in a way, it's also just young and kind of fearless, isn't it? Because you just don't know any better.
Yeah. No. It's exactly that.
So you missed out in the public votes against Cheryl in week 6 of Popstars, the rivals. How did that feel?
I mean, at the time, it was devastating. And it was devastation that was, for the world to see. There was no hiding my emotions in that moment. It's definitely, at that age, it was quite a crushing experience, let's be honest. It was, I think it's because, obviously we were so far into the competition by this point, and we all really, really wanted to be part of that final band. Leading up to that, it's what we all wanted more than anything, because we'd been through this, this crazy process, and we were watching friends leave each week and dealing with the emotions of that. But that was the end goal, and we all wanted to be part of the end goal. We'd recorded music and first single, and we knew how we were part of, conversations with the label at this point. So it's something at the time, obviously, that I desperately wanted. So it was a huge it was a huge rejection really at that age. But I think when I look back on it now, I kind of realized that yes, it was a huge rejection and it was a huge thing to go through at that age, but actually what it did was teach me one of the biggest lessons I could have learned at that age, which was rejection and not getting something that you wanted, because that's a huge part of this industry. The reality of the music industry is it's full of rejections. It's full of moments that you are going to do your best and think you've done, enough, and it not go where you want it to go. So as difficult as it was and as upsetting it was at that age, it actually taught me a huge lesson, which I needed, because I was about to step into the music industry for the next 18 years, believe it or not. So yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. And so that band obviously went on to be Girls Aloud. You obviously went on to form Clea. How did you kind of deal at the time with the kind of inevitable comparisons between Clea and Girls Aloud, and even because you missed out in the public vote by such a tiny amount as well? It was around 1,000 votes, wasn't it? Which was
I believe
nothing
so, yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
How did you even deal with the comparisons between yourself and Cheryl, for example?
I mean, I think we were very much just of the mindset, once we'd kind of joined Clea and we would kind of come off the show, and we'd obviously, dealt with the emotions of that. But I think as soon as we had the opportunity to form our own band, and to do that, we just kind of wanted to go our own way. I remember us having the mentality that we were very much aware we were always going to be compared to Girls Aloud. We'd all come off the same show. But we hadn't let go of the fact we're still singers, and we were still wanted to perform, and we wanted to do music. And I think it was just a case of us thinking, right, well, this is our opportunity now. We'll go and make the music that we want to make. We'll go in a different direction, and we'll see where it takes us. It was very much that kind of feeling that we were just happy we were happy and grateful to have the opportunity to be a band and to do something, because I think obviously coming off the show, we were all quite scared about what we were going to do now. Do we just go back to normal life? Do I go back to college? It was this, crazy experience that we'd all suddenly had. And then it was, I think when the reality of us being able to do that came to us, it was exciting, really. Yeah,
I'm curious about how that did kind of all happen. How was Clea formed? We know it's made up of 4 of the 5 of you who didn't make it into Girls Aloud, but how long did it take for you guys to get together?
Yeah, it was probably a few weeks after. I think some conversations started happening before I'd left the show. I think, so our management that we got involved with at the time, originally they were supposed to manage Girls Aloud. And that was the plan, that they were going to manage the final groups. Now, I'm not sure what happened along the lines, but something changed and they were no longer going to do that. So they still very much wanted to be involved with whoever wasn't going to form that final group. So it was a conversation. I was approached, obviously, as soon as I came out, was approached and said, look, we've spoken with the other girls. This is what we'd like to do. So we said, would you like to have a conversation with us about it? And it was that. I think we just literally sat in a room. We were together and they said, this is, we'd love to manage you. We think you'd form a fantastic band. You've all been through the same experience. You know each other now. And is this something you'd like to do? So we obviously, spoke between the 4 of us and made a decision that, we would like to work with each other and we'd kind of like to have that opportunity. And we went from there.
Yeah. And, other than the other girls from Clea, who we'll come on to a bit later, have you kept in touch with anybody else from that kind of period of your life, the Popstars, the Rivals kind of era?
Now and then, just to be honest, through social media as it is now. I still keep in touch with Nadine on social media. She's a really, really sweet girl. She's always made an effort to keep in touch and you know, us speak on things sometimes, which is lovely. And again, it's been over the years, really. There's been times when we've spoken to some of the guys that were in One True Voice and some of the Fix guys, and yeah, it comes in waves, really. Like, but it's nice that we have a presence online now where we are friends on Instagram or we are friends on Facebook, and we kind of keep up to date. And I see so many of them have had babies and children, and it's amazing to see, because we went through this incredible journey together, and it really was. And to think that we can still see what's going on in each other's lives is amazing, really.
Yeah. So Clea signed a record with 1967 Records, which was part of the Warner Music Group.
Yes.
How involved were you, kind of as an individual, in the negotiations of signing that deal? And did you and the other girls have any say about the kind of direction that you wanted Clea to go into?
To be honest, I think, I mean, in terms of dealing with the contracting and stuff like that, obviously we had our own lawyers at the time who were guiding us through that and advising us in the best way possible to make sure that we were looked after and signing the right kind of deal for us. I mean, in terms of creative direction, and I think the direction in which the band went, when I think back to it now, we didn't have a lot of say in where we went visually, and the kind of, you know, the look of the band and the singles that were chosen. Unfortunately, we didn't really get too much of a say in that, if I'm honest. Which kind of, yeah, I think we were quite young, obviously. We were very naive to the industry and the business, and we were so, I think, grateful to have this opportunity and be signed and be recording music, that we just kind of rolled with it, is the reality of it, to be honest. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it was amazing, and our first singles and everything were fantastic, but I think when I look back now and I see the direction in which the band went, it wasn't necessarily us and who we were personality-wise, wasn't truly reflected in the videos that were created, and the moodiness of it all, and the dark. I think because there was always going to be that comparison with Girls Aloud, and that kind of, I think we almost were pushed into going into even more of a different direction that was a lot more mature, to be honest. It was a lot moodier, darker, kind of a bit sexier, a bit kind of, and we lost that kind of fun side of us. Like, we were so young, and we'd just been on this huge TV show where people got to know us personally. They got to see our personalities. They got to see what kind of girls we were. And suddenly we came out with, don't get me wrong, fantastic music. I loved our music, but we came out in a very, very new direction that perhaps wasn't, perhaps was a conflict from how people had got to know us on the show. I think that's my feeling of it, is that it wasn't young and fun and kind of fresh. It was this kind of darker, moodier vibe, which, yeah, wasn't really us, to be honest. And that, maybe that was part of the problem. Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea if this is true or not. This is just coming from me as a fan. It felt to me as if a bit further into Clea, like you did get into more of that, like round about the kind of like second album period, like We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off and Lucky Like That. That's felt a bit lighter and sort of more light-hearted and a bit more fun and that's how it felt to me. But
that's because we then weren't with the big label anymore. We were signed independently. So we had a say now for the first time. We had an opinion. We were recording songs that we wanted to record, and we very much were more part of the conversation then. We weren't removed from the label. You know, when you're with a big label like that, and especially back then, you know, you can very easily become manufactured because you have the big bosses telling you what they think is going to sell and what they think is going to work for you. And you're like, oh, well, you must know because, you know, you've been in the industry 20 years and, you know, they're the ones putting the money in, they're the ones backing it. So you've kind of, to a certain degree, got to go with it. Whereas I think as you get older and as we were growing up within Clea, we then realised when we had gone independent with our management that we finally had a say, and we wanted to bring that funness back that we hadn't really had. You know, we wanted to smile, we wanted to enjoy our music and like create something that everybody wants to listen to and could dance around to. So that was definitely the transition.
Yeah, I mean, I that's my sort of favoured era, if you like, of Clea. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because I mean, just in terms of like single sales, it kind of dropped off by then. But that's perhaps more because just the industry's fickle and time had elapsed.
Yeah.
But if you'd have been maybe a bit more like that in the early going, it might have taken off a bit more. I mean, we don't know, do we? But
exactly, and this is what I mean. And me and the girls often do have these conversations, and we reflect on a lot actually, and we just kind of say, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm so still to this day so proud of the first album we created, and the music we did record was to this day still stands now.
Absolutely, yeah,
it really does, and it was beautiful music, like incredible, powerful lyrically, and I've said to the girls before, I listen back to that album now, and the biggest difference is when I listen to what we were singing about, we hadn't had those experiences yet.
Yeah.
So there was always going to be, they were great songs and we loved singing them and we were recording them. But now I listen back and I go, oh my God, I listen to that and sing that in such a different way now because I've lived it. But at 17, 18 years old, you've not lived life enough yet to have to sing those songs with the kind of conviction and the passion and the, you know, have that relatability to the music you're making, because we literally hadn't really had those experiences yet. So.
I mean, is that something you ever think about doing? Like, just like, would you ever even like consider singing some of those songs again?
Oh my God, I'd actually love to. Honestly, I've said this to the girls a few times. I was like, we could do one night at GAY and just do a complete like remake of like Identity Crisis and some of the Trinity tracks, and actually to go back and sing those songs now would just be a whole different experience. Because we would perform them so differently, and they would mean so much more now than they did back then. And a lot of those tracks, remember, didn't even see the light of day. So unless you were a fan and you followed our career and you had those albums, you know, a lot of those great songs have not even been heard before. So
and once the kind of initial euphoria of Clea's signing of the record deal had worn off, and you and the other girls were in the studio recording, how were you kind of feeling at that time?
It was it was a strange time, to be honest, because I think it was at that moment when, so we moved in together obviously, and we got a house together, me and the girls, and each of us, I think, were going through a lot of different emotions and feelings. I think it was only then really that it kind of hit me what we'd been through, and what I'd been through, to be honest, because the reality is that when we came off that show, there wasn't any support given to us. There wasn't any coaches. There wasn't any checkup afterwards in terms of how are you feeling? How is your mental health? You know, we were basically kind of off that show and done. And I think it just assumed that, we'd gone into another girl band, so everything's fantastic and everything's great and they're okay. So there was a lack of care, really, I feel, back then, after having been on such a huge platform. I mean, and it really was. And I think, it's only then that we kind of like, luckily I've got a very, very close family, and some amazing friends around me that I could then talk through the experience and what I was feeling at that time, and emotions that I was dealing with that I hadn't really felt before. So yeah, it was a tricky time, but it was also an important time to also be moving forward with the band and kind of focusing on the positives and where we were headed, and actually being grateful for where I was at and the opportunity, you know, to kind of move forward in the music industry.
Yeah. You obviously you performed Download It on Top of the Pops, and I think Stuck in the Middle on was it Top of the Pops Saturday? It's a short-lived program, wasn't it? What was that like? And was it how you imagined it to be? Obviously, you remember as a kid watching Top of the Pops. What was it like actually being on it?
Oh, it was unbelievable. Yeah, it was amazing. Again, it was a pinch me moment. I think that had always been on my bucket list. I grew up, as did everyone, with Top of the Pops, and it you know what? It was fate that we even ended up on that show, because Top of the Pops at the time was coming to an end, and it was one of the final shows that was happening. And obviously we kind of got in with a 21 position with Download It, which is what just literally kind of on the cusp really of the kind of, because it's only kind of like top 25 or 30, I think, where you could go on the show and perform. So it was meant to be. I thought, you know what, before this ends and stuff, like I've dreamt and manifested that moment since I was 5 years old. And I was so grateful to have that opportunity for us to perform on an iconic show like that.
The early to sort of mid-noughties were, I think, quite a really sort of interesting time for the music industry, with the beginnings of a lot of kind of major changes. Download It, both the title of the single and the video itself kind of played with the fact that the industry was becoming increasingly digitized. I mean, did you sense at the time how things were changing and moving into that kind of direction, and could you imagine back then how radically different things would become?
I mean, probably not, to be honest. I don't think we were really aware of how the industry was about to change. It was, like you said, it was very much on that time of people were starting to be able to download music. And we never thought, that Download It, when we first recorded that song, we recorded it and we, that was chosen as the single because it was a fantastic song. It was a brilliant written, it was very different to anything else kind of out there, really. It was a very different sound. And I think obviously they were keen to kind of find that sound for us that was going to be very separated from the Girls Aloud style of music. So, yeah, I mean, looking back now, it was kind of bad timing to release a song called Download It, because I think there was a certain amount of backlash. I mean, I want to say backlash. It wasn't awful, but I think there was definitely kind of a feeling people were kind of like, why are they promoting downloading it? I mean, the song was actually nothing to do with downloading music or downloading anything off the illegally, I think as soon as that had been said, everybody was just kind of grabbed onto that and thought, oh God, what is this all about? But in actual fact, it was just the fact it was a great song, and that was the lead single, and we were entering this whole new world of people having more access online. So who knew back then that it was about to completely change the music industry?
Absolutely, yeah. Would it be fair to say that Clea were perhaps a little more successful, or even quite a bit more successful overseas than they were in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, it most definitely felt that way. I mean, we were always very proud of the fact we'd had 4 top 40 hits in the UK, and that was successful for us. Obviously, at the time, it didn't feel it, because you were very much judged on if you didn't have a single in the top 10, you were dropped and you were gone. And that was the reality of the industry. So obviously, the opportunities we then got overseas were unbelievable. And we went on to have some incredible success across Europe and especially Southeast Asia. And I think that, to be honest, was probably down to the fact that over there we could be seen as a whole new girl band. We didn't have the Girls Aloud comparison over there. We were seen to be what we wanted to be, which was an English, British girl band. There wasn't that comparison. And it was actually really lovely to go over and feel, perform at gigs over there and what we were doing and feel really appreciated, and that they just loved pop music and they loved the fact there was 4 girls on stage loving life and, performing and singing these songs and stuff. So I think that was the reality of why it took off. It took off for us overseas.
Yeah, it sounds liberating.
Yeah.
And when you were touring across East Asia and you signed a record deal in China and touring sort of East Europe, what was that like at such a young age to be kind of on tour in all these, interesting and exotic places around the world?
It was amazing. It was everything I kind of wanted. I mean, we never even thought that could be happen for us, to be honest, when we were doing music and stuff over here. And, when we suddenly realised we could release abroad and we could have songs in different charts and have that opportunity to be signed with a huge label in China and then want to bring us out to perform. It was just amazing. I mean, we just grabbed the opportunity with both hands because we were young and I wanted to see the world and I wanted to, and we realised obviously when we would then go out, the shows were on another level. Like the promotion, the backing for these shows, the kind of support we were given out there was like nothing we'd really experienced before. Which was nice. It was good for us. Like it gave us a real boost. And I think the reality that we were a good girl band and we loved performing and having those chances to kind of do that and have fans out there that really loved the opportunity to come and see us perform. It was a whole new world that opened up to us. So, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I would have carried on doing it for even longer, I think.
and did you get the opportunity to kind of experience those places? Obviously you were there, but you hear sometimes about just you're on a schedule and you've got to perform somewhere. But did you manage to snatch the odd opportunity to actually experience?
And it literally was that we would snatch moments and opportunities. Our schedules, I mean, even now I think I've found like old itineraries from when we were out there. It was very full on, don't get me wrong, like the promo and the radio tours that you do and everything that goes into it and interviews. It was a very, very full on schedule. And it was a case of, we would be in China and we'd be like, we'd have a few hours or we'd have a day off in between where we're like, right, what can we, like, we need to see the Great Wall of China. We need to go and, have a tourist day and like actually remember that we're not just here to be in a hotel room and kind of let's try and enjoy it for the little moments that we can. So it literally was that. But yeah, don't get me wrong, we still got opportunities to go and do those things. But yeah, it's maybe not as much as I would have liked.
Yeah. I've been looking at like Clea's like official Instagram page. There's some amazing pictures on there. It seems to me like you really experienced quite a lot. Like, what do you have any like really big standout memories of those times?
I mean, we really did. We had some unbelievable experiences. Certainly, standout moments were the kind of shows we were doing in Southeast Asia. I remember when it was the 100-day countdown to the Olympics over there, and we were at the opening ceremony in Shanghai. That was an unbelievable experience. It was being filmed for TV, and it was kind of the countdown to the Olympics, and we were part of this unbelievable show. Which was
you performed in it?
We performed for this TV, and it was under the tower that's in Shanghai, and I'll never forget that. And again, just mad experiences. Like we got asked to perform at Prince Albert of Monaco's birthday party. We're flown over to Monaco and performed at this, super swanky dinner and just crazy experiences and things that came along that we were just like, we'll do that. Like we'll be part of that. And it is, I look back now and I see those pictures and it is, it's lovely to look back on. And I have had a crazy life over the last 18 years, really.
Yeah. And what's it like when you were thrown into the? Is it again just another situation of just being so young at the time and just I'll roll with it and it was
God, yeah, we just did it. Like it was just a case. Oh, this gig's come in and this is going to happen and you're going to do this and it's going to be with. And we were just like, yeah, great, let's do it.
Looking back at that time now, really, you did make an impact on a lot of people, and a lot of people, including myself, still have very fond memories of those times. And you've even got high profile names like MNEK, Rylan Clark, Neil have commented on social media that they're big fans of your work. I mean, looking back, like how do you feel about that? What you achieved back then. I mean, is it different now looking back? Like, was it all just a whirlwind at the time? And how do you feel now, just looking back on the Clea days?
It's really lovely, and it's funny. It has been a funny resurgence. Right, resurgence, is that the right word? Yeah. This last 6 months actually, and I don't know if it's because people have been, obviously we've gone through an incredibly difficult 18 months. And I don't know if it's people have been remembering things or looking back on things and kind of, finding music again, I guess, that got lost in their playlist, and then suddenly we pop up. And it's so lovely when that does happen and people are kind of, tagging us in things and saying reunion and bring back Clea. And it's lovely to see, because it's that reminder of, we did make an impact at that time, and we were remembered for the music we were putting out there, and that we'd come off this, huge TV show, and everybody has really fond memories from that time in the noughties, because it was such a new thing. And it's lovely, and I think back now only with fond memories. I really do, and I think all of us, me and the girls, like we would just we look back and feel very grateful to have had the experiences that we had, because so many people out there want to be singers and artists, and I mean the industry is harder than it's ever been now to get a break and to have that chance. So I think we were very lucky to kind of have the career that we did, really, for the time that we did, and get to experience a lot, really.
2004, Chloe left the band. Did you have any idea she was thinking about leaving? Was it a surprise?
Not initially, we didn't. It was a strange one, really, then, because, again, we'd been together since we came off the show. And I think there were conversations happening. And at the end of the day, when we talked with our management at the time, and we knew then that she wanted to leave, and that it was a case of us, I think we knew that we'd come to an end as a four, and that she wasn't necessarily happy and kind of like moving in the same direction as us. So I think it was just a case of us knowing that if that's what she needed to do, and that's what we needed to do in order to be kind of happy as a band, and for her to be happy, as a solo artist or whatever it is she wanted to do, then that was, at the time, it was the best decision for us.
Yeah. And so eventually Lindsey leaves the band in 2006. And so again, just, did you suspect this was coming? Was that a surprise? And how did you feel about Lindsey's exit?
Yeah, it was a difficult one, Lindsey's exit, actually. At that point, we'd been together, a good 5 years. And, it was more of a difficult, that one, because obviously we'd started having the success overseas and in Asia, and we kind of rolled with it. But at the same time, we've been non-stop. We didn't stop for all of those years. We were growing up in the industry and with each other and living in a house. And I think it just got to the point where she was craving some normality. And we could never, ever hold that against her, because at the end of the day, we had been on this roller coaster that hadn't really stopped yet. And we were going away, and we were living out of a suitcase for months at a time, because we were traveling around East Asia and doing huge shows in Europe and Holland. And then we were in the music studio, and we were, recording new songs. And it's as much as it's an amazing life, it's also it's a tough life, and you're away from home a lot. Yeah. So you don't have that sense of belonging, or like a home where you're surrounded by your things. It is a difficult life, really. So I think there was an understanding there with myself and Emma, that we totally got her reasons for why it was difficult for us, because we kind of knew then that we'd come to an end, because that was the end of our journey with the shows in Asia, and to carrying on, really. So it was more a case of us having to then mourn the band, really.
Yeah. And so you're still in touch with the girls today, is that right?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. They're still my really, really good friends. I'm in touch with each of the girls. We speak every week, to be honest.
Wow.
Still in touch with Chloe. We do FaceTime calls. She still lives in Canada. She emigrated to Vancouver shortly after she left the band, actually.
She's a DJ, doing a lot of DJing.
Yeah, she's an amazing DJ, still doing music, putting music out there. She's great. She's got a little girl now. All the girls have got babies, actually. Lindsey's got 2 little ones. Emma's had twins. Like, we're very much a part of each other's lives, and we always will be. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the band, and I look back on now, is we had genuine relationships there, and it didn't matter that Chloe left when she left and Lindsey left when she left. Like, there was always going to be that bond there no matter what. And yes, maybe there was a time where we had to kind of go our separate ways and grow up and figure out who we were as individuals rather than who we were collectively, but we've always had that bond, and we always will do.
Yeah. Well, that's really great to hear. Just as a fan, that you're all still in touch, and you see each other, pretty much every week. That's all. Or communicate at least.
Yeah, well, I love the girls to bits. We're still really close.
And I mean, obviously you get people commenting on social media about reunions and so on, but you mentioned earlier as well, would you be up for doing like some sort of, like, if you could get all the schedules together, just not getting back together, but like a one-off kind of thing?
I mean, I think we've always never say never, for sure. Obviously, like, there's not many gigs going on right now with the way the music industry has been, but I think we've always kind of said, obviously, yes, it would be, all the girls are mums now, and Chloe still lives away and stuff like that. But I think if ever the stars did align and it was meant to be, and it was kind of a time where we all felt it was the right timing and something that we wanted to do, then absolutely, I would never say it's off the cards.
It would be really cool, like just a one-off gig, like you say, to just perform some of the old songs in a different way. I think that would be a major success.
Oh, thank you.
So when Clea did disband, pretty much, not too long after Lindsey's departure, what was going on in your head back then? Did you know what you wanted to do next?
Not really, no. I mean, this was a huge transition in my life, this chapter, actually, that we're coming on to now, because this was the first time that the reality was I wasn't as part of a collective anymore. I wasn't, in the band. And it was definitely a huge transition time for me then to really figure out who I wanted to be, and who I was as Aimee on her own, basically. I knew I still loved music. I knew, I didn't want to step away from music, but I also knew that I needed a moment to really give myself time to explore other areas of life that I was interested in, and kind of, wanted to try out and just kind of have some downtime, because we hadn't really had that. So it was a big moment, really, to figure out who I wanted to be, and the a new direction that I wanted to go in.
Yeah. So what did happen next after that?
I moved back down to London, actually. I've always lived between the North and London. I wanted to kind of be there and see kind of what opportunities would come for me there, being in a city. And I ended up going back to college. I really wanted to study music production. It's something I'd obviously been really passionate about. I'd started developing my songwriting side of things at that point. I was doing some acting classes. I got into modelling. I was modelling full time just to kind of make an income and to start, making money so I could fund these other passion projects that I had and stuff I wanted to, go into. And yeah, I was just kind of rolling through life really and seeing where things were, not putting too much pressure on myself, but knowing that when the right opportunity came along, that I would know to go for it.
Yeah. And eventually you joined a new group, didn't you? Fanfare.
I did, yes.
So what? Go on, sorry.
It's a funny one. I kind of, I'd always said I would never do a girl band again. Yeah. I mean, I've been through that, whirlwind career and a long time. In the end, I think we've been 6-7 years we were going with Clea, and I didn't really have the desire to go into another girl band at that point. And it was only when I've been kind of out of music for a while and I'd kept in touch with a guy I'd met along the way who used to work at Psycho, and we'd always
Simon Cowell's record label, isn't it?
Simon, so we'd worked closely with Simon, and we'd remain good friends, and we'd meet for coffee every now and again, and we just kind of started a conversation. And I think it was literally a case of, oh, would you do a girl band again? And the more we talked on it, I said, you know what? I said, I would, but it would have to be the right thing for me this time. I would have to have a say in who's in the band, what direction we're going to go in. I'd want to be writing the music, and I'd want to have a real kind of say this time on where we go musically and the kind of vibe. So it was literally a conversation over coffee. And he said, you know what? I know a girl called Roberta, and she's been in music her whole life and done a lot. She's really keen to do something, but she doesn't know what. And I said, well, I know a good friend of mine called Jess through another friend of mine, and she's really keen to kind of, and it literally came about organically like that, where between the two of us, we brought the 4 girls together, and we met for lunch one day and we're like, should we do this? It was like, and Dan was really keen to it was his first project outside of Psycho, because he'd left Psycho at this point. He was setting up a brand new company called 84 World, who have gone on to be really successful. Actually, they're a management and entertainment company, and they're doing loads now. But it was his first project, and obviously it was my kind of first involvement in something completely new. And I was a very different person at this point. I was a lot more wise, a lot more opinionated. I had a much better idea of the industry and how the industry works, because we'd literally been through everything you could really. I just kind of, again, went into it open-mindedly, and we were excited to just kind of create some music together and literally just organically see where it goes and see if we can make it work. Which is what we ended up doing for 2 years. Yeah,
you really did as well, didn't you? You became like the official band of the London Irish Rugby Club, is that right? And you were performing in front of 60,000 people at Twickenham.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was one of our best standout moments. Definitely was Twickenham doubleheader, middle of the pitch, 60,000 people singing "The Boys Are Back in Town." Crazy.
You went on tour with the Wanted as well, didn't you? You supported them.
We did, which was amazing. We'd never really done an arena tour, so that was a huge opportunity for us to go on tour with the biggest boy band in the UK at that time. And that was our plan. That was part of our plan that we put together, that we needed a big support slot, and we needed to be able to perform the music that we've been writing in all of these different writing camps that we've gone on, and perform them to the biggest audiences we could, to see if it connected, and to see, if we could become the best girl band that we wanted to be at the time. So
that was about 2 years of your life, and eventually it just kind of came to a kind of natural conclusion.
I think, like I said, we were all a bit older. I think I was 26 at this point. And we knew the reality of the industry and kind of what we would need financially, backing wise. During the whole time we were in Fanfare, we each worked full time. Yeah. So it was a real struggle. Like it was hard work juggling both a job and trying to have this music career at the same time. Yeah. But we each did that. We were willing to do that because we saw an end goal and we wanted it, you know, to go somewhere. So I think we all had made a conscious decision that if after 2 years and if after we come off the tour with The Wanted, if there wasn't a label involvement at this point and we'd been very kind of headstrong about doing everything independently. And that's something our management were very keen to kind of push and roll with. But I think we definitely got to a point where we knew something needed to change. We needed, in order to, you know, film music videos and kind of go on the road, you know, it's very expensive to go on tour with a band. You have to fund those kind of things yourself. A lot of the time you have to pay to go on these tours, and a lot of people don't know that actually like that's part of the industry. And so I think we kind of said, you know what, if after that and if after 2 years we haven't got that back in and kind of we can't financially step away from our jobs to give this the best possible shot we can, that we would call it a day. And that's exactly what we did. So it's sad really. It was a shame. It was kind of, again, a whole new experience, and it was the first time I felt really in control of my music career in a band where we were writing and recording our own music, you know, and having those chances to do that and visually kind of it going where we wanted it to go. And we wrote some fantastic songs again that haven't really seen the light of day. I mean,
is there anywhere people can go to kind of find that music that you did for those 2 years?
We did some videos actually that we put out on YouTube. We got a guitarist in and we set up in a room, and I think that's probably the best place to hear, because digitally we never ended up. There was only our song Mission, because we got that sponsored on a collection makeup advert that we ended up releasing just because we basically got it on the advert, so it made sense to put it out there. But that was never intentionally meant to be the first single or kind of the release, but it naturally happened that way because we got the sync on the advert. So but our other music, like Take Me As I Am and some really beautiful songs we wrote, and we did some recordings of them for YouTube. So I'm sure if you type in Fanfare you'll come across these acoustic versions of the songs we were writing basically.
So what came next after Fanfare?
I've got to remind myself now. It's been quite a journey. That is when I made a decision to go into the business side of the music industry. Yeah. And to get a job in the music industry. And I started exploring jobs within labels, within promoters companies, within agencies. I just put myself out there for the first time. I got a CV together. I kind of had that in my head that, right, this is where I'm at now. Like, I'll always keep my music there, you know, as my hobby or my passion, my side, you know, project, but I need to get a job. And I was at a point in my life where I was kind of ready to do that. I was quite excited to do that, to be honest, because I'd always been kind of self-employed or worked part-time to that point. So I got a job in Manchester. I ended up moving back up north. I was working with a huge promoters company in Manchester for a couple of years. That again gave me a whole new sense of another side of the industry that I'd never really understood before, which was promoters, which is connected to the live side of touring and shows. And then from there, I progressed on to an agency. And I moved back to London. I've literally been a yo-yo for 18 years. I've been back and forward my whole life. In between all of that, I also backpacked around the world for 8 months and took a complete chunk of time out of my life to just go and see the world.
Wow, yeah. You continue to write, sing and record to this day. I mean, can you tell us more about the kind of music that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's again, it is, music's my passion. I will always make music. It's my therapy. It really has been more than ever this last 18 months, as with a lot of people. You've got to find your thing that takes you out of your headspace, or I enter another world when I start creating music. And music production, something I'm really passionate about. So I've got a home studio set up. It was an important thing for me to learn that lesson of kind of being able to produce and record my own vocals, and not being reliant on waiting for sessions or waiting for producers to have time for you to go in and do stuff. Like, to have that ability to be able to make your own music and have that creative freedom opened up this whole new world for me, really. And yeah, I'm still working on music. I put a song out called Ghost Town a few months back. That's the first thing I kind of really put out as a kind of solo project for a very long time. And again, I put it out for me. I put it out for the fact I'm still making music. It doesn't have to be liked by everyone. I wasn't putting it out there to be the artist, or kind of, it was just a case of, I want to share what I'm doing creatively. And I said that, it's, if 10 people connect with this, if one person connects with this, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be for everyone. Like, it's just a showcase of what I'm working on at home. And the reaction I got from it and the messages I had from it were lovely, like so nice, and such a lovely boost. You know what I mean? To know that people do connect with the stuff that you're producing yourself and writing.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Ghost Town. I watched a video that's out there on YouTube, and really enjoyed it. Yeah,
I just did that at home. I was just like, I want to put it out there. I don't want it to be a static, Ghost Town on the screen and nothing there. I kind of wanted to show the emotion of me just being at home, singing the song, what it meant to me at the time, obviously with everything we've been going through. And yeah, it got a really lovely reaction. And again, it's just kind of, I've definitely got a lot more in my back pocket that I need to start putting out there really now. Just for that, just for a case of it's the therapy for me. If people connect with it, fantastic. And yeah, it's just an outlet for me creatively.
Is that what you wrote that yourself as well?
Yeah. Awesome. I write all my own music now. Yeah.
That's
so
brilliant.
It's and I've got lots of tracks like that, like I said, and it's just a case I really want to kind of move forward into kind of the sync world, and start kind of working on tracks for TV and film. That would be a huge dream of mine now, and to get in more songwriting sessions with different producers and things. So
great. And how would you kind of, I know it's difficult to pigeonhole anything, but if you did have to kind of like try and classify the kind of stuff that you're doing that now, how would you kind of place that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually. And it really just depends on the day of the week, what kind of song I create. I can flip from creating something that's quite like Ibiza, chill, house vibes, where I, just put kind of a crazy reverb vocal on it. Or, I can go into my pop zone, which is always going to be a part of me. I'm always going to be a pop girl. Like, I appreciate indie pop so much. I definitely fit more into the whole indie, haunting, acoustic kind of genre. That's where I feel most at home now with the kind of music I create. Kind of goes in that direction, a bit haunting, a bit cinematic. And just music from the soul. It's soul music. It's honest, and it's, when you're writing your own music, you're speaking truth from something you might have experienced, and we all go through those experiences. So, you kind of always hope there's going to be somebody that finds something relatable within those lyrics, because we do go through the same experiences. So.
And would you write for other people as well if you could, or have you written for other people, or have you just collaborated with other people in general on the music? Yeah,
I've collaborated with a few different people over the years. At one point I was working with a fantastic team in Liverpool. We did quite a few songs together. I know I've got them in a catalogue, and they're out there to be picked up if they are. I mean, if any artist ended up using one of my tracks, I'd be over the moon. That would be a great experience and feeling. I think that's definitely more the direction that I see my music going in, and having outside of my own things, you know, putting those songs out there for other artists to pick up and perform.
And I know you were learning the guitar a few years ago. Have you?
I'm still learning. Still going. Yeah, I love my guitar. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely no pro guitar player yet, but
not quite Santana yet. But.
No, I'm not. It's so much harder than people realize. But I still play guitar. Again, what's amazing about production is that, you know, you can do things like your guitar, you can plug it into, you know, your music production system, and you don't have to be the best player in the world. You just need to be able to have a good ear and create a sound that you like. And that's the beauty of music production. And what I love about it is that you can sit there and you don't know from one session to the next what's going to be created and what something's going to sound like. But I just love having that moment to just have a play and just see what comes out, and then it developing into a song. It's a process that I really love.
And can you tell us just briefly a bit about some of the other things that you're up to? So the House of Androgyny, what's that, and what's your involvement with it?
So House of Androgyny is a new company. It's my cousin, Dale, and he set up the company about 3 years ago now. He's worked as a dancer and a choreographer in the industry for a few years now. And yeah, it's a company we've started developing together. It's organically gone in the direction of an agency, which again, we never set it out to be an agency, but it's naturally kind of started evolving into that. Dale's worked over the years with some unbelievable drag queens. He's choreographed some amazing shows for Sacha Velour and Popcorn in London and Heaven. And yeah, we just started basically becoming a bit of a home for queer artists and performers in the industry, and dancers and alternative acts. Basically, it's a really exciting project that we're very passionate about and very keen to kind of create a safe space for those kind of artists where we make sure they are looked after in the right way, and, you know, pronouns are used correctly if going to castings or, you know, certain shows and things. And it's a real kind of change that's happening within the industry now. And yeah, we're excited to see where it goes, actually, now that the industry is starting to get back on its feet again.
And all of these things that you're up to now, all the music that you're producing and so on, where can people who want to listen go, and where can they follow you on social media and so on to find out what you're up to?
I mean, I haven't put that much out there yet, as you're probably aware, as my solo kind of stuff and my kind of music production. I'm definitely going to start utilising my SoundCloud more. Yeah. Most of the tracks I've got are on SoundCloud now at the moment. So, my SoundCloud's probably the best place. And then, I'll probably just start using more of my YouTube channel, Instagram, you know, for as and when I kind of want to share some things. So yeah, I'll start kind of, they're probably the main three, as well as Facebook music. I've got a Facebook music page as well, Aimee Music. Right. Again, I go through phases of putting things up there and then not putting things on there, and because I've just got a lot going on as well at the same time. So it's kind of just having those moments and to just, you know, get rid of any fear of putting your things out into the world and just kind of start sharing them. So that's kind of a promise I've started making to myself, that I will, no matter what, start sharing some more music.
That's really great if you did more of that, and I know a lot of people would be.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks, Aimee. Listen, I know I've gone over my time. I'm really sorry.
We've had a lot to cover.
Yeah, well, this is it. You know, you've had such an interesting and varied and successful career, and so there's just so much that, you know, I mean, there's more I could ask you, but we could talk all night, let's be honest. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I've really, you know, it's a really lovely opportunity to be able to reminisce and talk about my life throughout this career and the music industry this last few years. So yeah, no, it's been lovely to reminisce on that again.
So that was my interview with Aimee Kearsley from Clea, and I thank Aimee very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to her and for how generous she was with her time. First of all, I have to say I'm absolutely delighted to hear that all 4 of the girls from Clea are still very much in touch with each other to this day, and are in regular contact where they catch up and reminisce on old times. And it's really comforting to know that after everything the girls went through together, the ups, the downs and the departures, that they always supported each other in all the decisions they took as individuals, and it's just heartwarming as a fan to know that they're still really the best of friends to this day. I think, from my perspective, it feels like Popstars The Rivals was a blessing and a curse to Clea. A blessing, obviously, insofar as the band almost certainly never would have formed without the TV show, but a curse in as much as in the UK they always had the shadow of Girls Aloud hanging over them. And I think the success Clea had internationally goes to show what they were capable of, how talented they were as a group, and how they could inspire and excite audiences when they were liberated from that comparison, and they were viewed purely as a fresh, new, cool, exciting girl band, which is precisely what they were. I thought it was really interesting what Aimee had to say about the tracks Clea recorded and performed in those early days, and how they were beautiful pieces of writing with passionate, heartfelt lyrics, but how she would sing those songs so differently now that she has so many more life experiences to draw on, and how she can relate to many of those lyrics now in a way that she couldn't back then because she hadn't had those experiences yet. And what Aimee was saying, and I know it was kind of half jokingly, but what she was saying about thinking what it would be like to perform some of those tracks again today, and what she would do differently. She mentioned a hypothetical one-off reunion gig at GAY or somewhere like that. I mean, look, I don't think anyone should get their hopes up, but I think I can safely say on behalf of anyone who was a fan of Clea back in those days and bought those singles, bought their album in the UK, I think that would be a roaring success and something I think we'd all absolutely love to see. So who knows, maybe one day, if the stars were to align, who knows what could happen in the future. I'd encourage you guys to go out and do a bit of digging into Fanfare, Aimee's second girl band venture. Obviously there is some material out there if you know where to look, and it's a shame, as Aimee says, that because a record deal was never signed, a lot of that work never got any substantial exposure. And I think it's great now that Aimee's still very much a part of the music industry, because I think she has a great deal to offer while also still writing and recording her own music. And do check out Ghost Town by Aimee Kearsley on YouTube, and find her on Facebook at Aimee Music UK. That's Aimee spelt AIMEE. So thank you once again to Aimee for taking the time to talk to me and giving us a really interesting and entertaining interview. We've got more excellent content lined up for you on the podcast, so if you like what you've been hearing so far, please hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. If you haven't already, check out our first 2 episodes with Nikki French of Total Eclipse of the Heart and Eurovision fame, and Nick Major from Fix, who's releasing new music as a solo artist now, and whose career in music is showing on my favourite TV channel, Trace Vault, which is on Sky Channel 360. You can find us on Instagram at Mega Music Memories. You can follow us on Twitter at Mega Memories. We are available on all the major platforms, so please hit that subscribe button to get all our new episodes. Stay tuned, and I'll see you back here very soon for more mega music memories.